That was the sound of J34 making 650 horsepower on our Dynapack hub dyno. I'm Bradley from Turning Point Technology, and in this video I'm going to explain some of the features we incorporate into the design and assembly of the wiring harness we manufactured for Robbie Mounfield's 2JZ powered R34 Skyline. I'm also going to cover some of the functions that we implemented using the programmable outputs on the Adaptronic Select E440D ECU, which is what we have running the whole show. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Every race car should have an interior light. We made the harness modular so as to make working on this car a lot easier. So if, for example, we need to remove, just get that battery isolator off, if we need to remove the center switch binnacle, we undo one plug and it comes out. So the whole car's been wired in that way. It takes about probably 5 minutes to remove the entire wiring harness from inside the cabin area here, and about another 5 minutes to do the engine bay, and that's only because there's about 15 plugs to take off the engine. If we're ever unlucky enough to have to pull the motor out, one plug on the firewall and the whole engine can lift out. Obviously you need to undo the battery lead as well, but it's just done the way they should be. We have the control buttons for the Race Technology Dash 2, which unfortunately, when the vehicle was brought to us, the dash was inoperable. I think there may have been a wiring problem previously which affected that before we got to look at the car. So, the dash is all wired, ready to go. We've got the interface plug there to be able to plug straight in, so it should be fairly easy to work with once we get the rest of the equipment in here. We're logging fuel pressure, oil pressure. We have a cutout configured in the ECU. If the oil pressure drops below a certain threshold above a set RPM, we have it so that the engine is limited to 2000 RPM, so as to minimize any damage. In the back here we have the awesome fuel system that these guys did with the help of Aftermarket Industries. AI fuel cell, if it is it? Yeah. AI swell pot, twin 044s. We've got this lovely aeromotive filter here, as well as what appears to be an aeromotive lift pump. The ECU switches the lift pump and the primary 044 on, and above about 65–66% injector duty cycle we turn the second pump on. That way we're not wasting battery power and flogging the pumps for no reason at low speed. A few other clever things we do with the computer. We come up the front here. The thermo fans, we're running 2 fans. We have the computer run the fans in high speed and low speed by wiring the fans in series for low speed. You're drawing about a quarter of the current, which is a quarter of the electrical load on the engine, but you still manage about half of the airflow that you get when the fans are at high speed. If the engine gets to a higher temperature, the computer automatically cuts in high speed to keep the engine temp under control. Around the front here we have a fan on the oil cooler. The ECU also reads the oil temperature, and at the temperature that we configure, the thermo fan comes on for that as well. The fans are all configured to not run unless the engine speed is above 600 RPM. That way if the battery's a little bit sad, the engine's not trying to run 3 fans as well as crank the engine if the car happens to be hot enough to require so. So it'll start with no current draw from the fans. Once the engine speed exceeds 600, the fans cut in and run as per the temperature thresholds that we've configured. The whole harness has been wired using TEFCell cable. All of the connectors are individually labelled. So we've got injector number 2 here. So it means that if it ever has to come apart, it's hard to get it wrong. Another example further over here, we have, for example, the crank trigger. Again, wired using Deutz connectors. Very positive interlocking action, and we use male-female pairs so that where we have a couple of plugs like this, it's impossible to plug the wastegate into the crank trigger, for example, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for somebody to make a mistake when they're putting the vehicle back together. Inside the cabin we have the ECU installed with nice clear access to the front panel on the Adaptronic 440. We have a number of ports here that we use. We're using the serial out to feed the ECU data to the dash. You can see the vacuum line plugged into the built-in map sensor. On the left there you'll see we have 3 lights. They're labelled General 1, 2 and 3. They're configured to turn on at the temperature thresholds for low speed fans, high speed fans, as well as the oil cooler. So at a glance, it's very simple troubleshooting information that's available without having to plug a laptop in. Over to the right here we have the phone socket where we can plug in and actually audibly listen to the knock sensor that the ECU's calibrated to listen to. So again, we'll have any knock events will be logged in the data logs, so that will allow us to make any adjustments if necessary once the vehicle's on the track. Obviously the calibration that we performed on the dyno was, when I say conservative, it was just safe, it was correct. So we don't expect to see that, but if we get some differing temperatures, the differing climatic conditions that might cause something to be a bit out of whack or a bit of a fuel quality issue, we can deal with that just by reviewing the data. At the moment we're running E85, no flex fuel sensor, so we're just manually specifying an ethanol concentration amount of 85%, which correlated to our tests. We're using the United E85, which we get up here on the pump. And I'd say one of the next things that will be happening will be a flex fuel sensor, so that we can let the ECU take care of that all on its own. So here's our firewall connector. One simple twist and we're out. The whole engine's free. Wiring wires now to come out, save for the positive lead on the starter motor. Back end ready to race.
And I just got to drive it. First time in a year.
Left under its own power.
It did. Excited is an understatement.